Welcome to ZAMBITION, the channel on which we engage in dialogue with leaders from across sectors and generations. Greetings and welcome to ZAMBITION. My name is Martin Kalungbanda, your host on this channel. Our guest today is a lady whose work I have been familiar to for many years. She's an author with a passion for community development. Her professional background is in nursing and community health. Her name is Mrs. Felicia Sakala. She is deeply involved with the Widows Ministry of the Anglican Church in Zambia. She is an organizer who has shaped a number of development projects in the country. Mrs. Sakala, welcome to ZAMBITION.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalungbanda. I'm humbled that I'm invited to be part of this ZAMBITION.
It's our pleasure to have you on this program. To begin, may I invite you to share an object or image that best describes the journey you have walked so far. What might that be?
For me, the best object that would describe me is my wristwatch. This I wear most of the time, and it's an asset that I value because it represents time. For me, time is very, very important. And when you look at time management, it enhances the way you live as a person. Because I've lived with time from the time I was born to now, to the present time, I've worked with time through a lot of trials and tribulations. Some of the achievements that I've done have been done within this time from the time I was born to now. So I really value time and organize, and you do things in a specific time, then you achieve more, and actually you have better opportunities or more opportunities when you are well organized within a specific time frame.
Mrs. Sakala, what would you say are the 2 to 3 defining moments in that timeline you have so well talked about?
The 3 defining moments will be the first time that I worked in a classroom. At the age of 7 years, I was so excited because I wanted to learn. I lived in an environment which most of the children were not in school. So I was excited to be in school, and had this aspiration of doing better in life than what my siblings or other people I lived within the community did. And then at the time when I completed the school, we were one of the first grade 7s to enter grade 8. We are the first grade 7s rather to enter grade 8. And we were together with my older brother who was in standard 6 and I was in grade 7. So he did not like it that the young sister and him went to grade 8 at the same time. So I was very proud, and I looked forward to completing my grade 12. So when I completed my grade 12, I really wanted to be a nurse because that's something I wanted to do from the time I was a child. So when I entered the school of nursing first time, I was very excited. And the third one, of course, is getting married and having the first child. Those were some of my best moments.
So for you, education, learning ranks very, very highly on what has defined you. But also, I hear relationship, that connection with your husband and the first child that you were given. May I now turn to your work in the women's movement? You have been part of the movement. You have seen it begin, you have seen it grow, and maybe whether it has plateaued or not, you will share with us. But what would you say have been the two most significant moments in your involvement in the women's movement?
The two most significant moments, the introduction of the Women's Human Rights Program to YWCA, where I worked for 10 years rather, and there was nothing like a Women's Human Rights Department. But because of my love for women's human rights at that time, we started the department, and it was after I'd gone to the women's leadership at Rutgers University in New Jersey. So I came back like a highly charged to have these issues of women's human rights addressed. And the first thing that we started was to introduce the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which started on 25 November to December 10. That year, it was the first time of having it in 1991, and the women's movement did not know anything about that. So when I was at that institute, we made a commitment that we will go back to our countries and introduce the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. That's how we started on a low note. We marched from Cairo Road North End to YWCA. And after that, it was like commemorated every year. And now it has been taken by the government to commemorate as a national event. It's now a global event, of course. Women who went to their countries initiated that activity. It's a coordinated event every year with a different theme, which starts in November 25, Human Rights Day. And it includes days like International World Days Day, and 6th December, which is the Montreal Massacre, where a lone gunman, because of the striking women, separated women and men and shot all the women. And then we have of course, 10th December, which is Human Rights Day. And then the other achievement in my work in the women's human rights movement is a work with the police and the judiciary, where we actually supported the activities by training 2 policemen to establish victim support units, which are running throughout the country. And I'm proud that the YWCA, and I was part of that, training a man and a woman, the police, to go and start victim support units, which are working very well in counseling those that find themselves in abuse situation, and also helping them to start a new life. So the victim support units are working very well. And another one was actually establishing a shelter for abused women, where at least we protect the lives of those survivors of gender-based violence.
Thank you very much. Those are incredibly special moments and special contributions from yourself and or the other women that you worked with in YWCA. If I am correct, Mrs. Sakala, the 16 days of activism are about sensitizing the country, maybe the continent, maybe the world, about the abuse of women by men and wider society, and that we need to stamp out such abuse. And for the victim support unit, I heard you saying it is about ensuring that those who have the power, such as the police, should use that power to save women who are victims of violence. And when law enforcement agencies are blind to this abuse, then they can contribute to perpetration of the abuse. Am I right in putting in my own words what you are saying on the two contributions?
Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, you're
Thank
very
you.
right. And then during the same period, I can just add one thing. You know, in the 1990s, there was a lot of property grabbing. It was very rampant. And I contributed at the YWCA, where we worked with the Media for Development Trust in Zimbabwe, to actually launch an area which was used for sensitizing against property grabbing. And actually it helped even enacting laws where now any property abuser, grabber, would actually be jailed. So it has really sensitized the country because of that, the work at YWCA and using that film area.
And Mrs. Sakala, I don't know whether you may recall, I was in the audience when you first showed the movie Neria. All of us were shocked to see what we were experiencing as individual families, to see it coming through the screen, how much property grabbing was causing pain, not only among the widows, but also the children that were left behind. But thank you for that tremendous work.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to move to back to your personal life. You have had your own share of pain and suffering. You lost your husband, Mr. Sakala, and within a few years, you also lost your daughter, Bisoa. What amazes me is that unless someone knows about these losses and challenges you have faced in life, one wouldn't tell from the way you show up every day in your work. What is it that supports you to show up the way you do?
One of the scriptures that has helped me to be what I am is the Philippians 4, verse 13. I can do all this through him that gives me strength. So that scripture actually helps me to give me strength along with other scriptures. But of course, there are other people around me, my colleagues at the church and within the community and the family have helped me to strengthen me in this journey that I've suffered with the losses. Losing a husband is very, very painful, especially depending on the relationship that you had with your spouse. So I had this special relationship with my husband. It was my greatest friend that I could ever have. And when I lost him, it was so painful. It was like the whole world has crumbled in front of me, and the pain that I suffered, it was like a knife, piercing through my left side of my chest. It was so painful that I didn't know that I was going to live up to today. But then I continued, and just a year before my husband passed on, my relative daughter Bisoa came to me and asked me a question. Mom, what would be so painful, to lose a spouse or a child? I didn't know what to answer. I just said, I can't answer that question because losing a husband, losing a child, I can't handle those things. So I just said, don't ask me that question. And then it happened. My husband died, and that pain that I suffered, and because of that support, and it helped me to continue living on, and the establishment of the Widows Ministry at my church, sharing those experiences helped to continue living on. But when my daughter passed on, it was another experience. I just wanted darkness. I didn't want daylight. I started looking for colleagues who have lost children, that maybe I can find solace by talking to them, interacting. I would call people to come and just speak to me, those that I knew that had lost children like myself. So it has been a terrible journey, but through support groups, I continue being what I am today.
Mrs. Sakala, no words as you have shared can be good enough to console such moments of loss. And at the same time, we take strength from your own ability to bounce back, to be even in a position where through your work with the Anglican Church, you are supporting other women, other people who have gone through similar circumstances. We will take a little break. And when we return, Mrs. Sakala, I'll ask you what your ZAMBITION is.
Are you an entrepreneur looking for a place to work from? Do you want to develop your leadership skills? Do you have an idea or business you'd want to scale? Are you looking for a place to host training and learning events? If you answered yes to any of the questions, then Impact Hub Lusaka is the place for you. It is a social innovation hub that is part of Impact Hub Global Network that supports various entrepreneurs and social innovators. Our services, among others, include co-working space, event hosting, incubation and acceleration programs, capacity building in leadership and business.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Mrs. Felicia Sakala, an author, a community development activist. Mrs. Sakala, one of your books is entitled Bisowa's Legacy, a Letter to Malaika. You have written about your daughter so that your granddaughter, Malaika, can come to know about her mother. Which is the Zambia you would like Malaika to grow up in?
The Zambia that I would like Malaika to grow in would be a safe Zambia especially for women and children. Talking about the children, we need to have safety measures in our environment that will protect abuse of children. There are so many stories we hear, children being defiled within what we may call the safety of their own homes, within the community. Because the community, or whether from the family level to the community, everybody must take care of these children. So we need to safeguard their safety and also ensure that their rights are protected. So apart from that, it should be a comprehensive package for these children that they have access to good health, they have access to nearby health centers, they receive their health, they have good nutrition, their caregivers are also well protected, they're healthy, the environment is okay. So that's the kind of Zambia I would like. But for the women in particular, should be an environment free of violence. Zambia has enacted so many acts like the Anti-Gender Violence Act, which is actually in use now. And also Zambia has signed several international protocols, like even the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women and the others. So those should not just be as a matter of just signatures, appending signatures, but they need to be operationalized so that all wings of those that are responsible for protecting women and children, they actually implemented. The police, the judiciary, some of the cases that go to the court, it's find that women will withdraw because of maybe the time that it takes for them to be cleared. They may just opt to just let it go. So we need those laws to work for our country, and especially for the vulnerable population, the women and children.
Thank you. And allow me to just go back to the book, Bisowa's Legacy, a letter to Malaika. What is the message you are trying to share with us through this book? Maybe it's not just for Malaika. It might be for all of us, many of us.
The message I'm trying to share is that, earlier when I talked about the time we are given on this earth. So there's some vision or goals that we set as individuals. So if you do not use the opportunities that you're given, you find that you lose it. And, once time goes, you will not recall it back. Maybe we are given about 10 years to be in education, to complete our school, and then later on go to colleges. And if you do not utilize that time very well, then you lose it. So the message here is that Bisowa, at a younger age, she wanted to do things quickly. And for Malaika, I think she learned something from what her mother did, because that writing of that book is a gift to her. When she's reading, when she's old enough to read, she will actually sometimes relate some of the journey that she should be taking to relate to that of her mother. Because her mother did a lot in a short time. Within 30 years of her lifetime, she achieved quite a lot. And she was doing things very, very fast, as if she knew that she was going to leave early from this earth. So she finished school quite early at the age of 15 and went into aviation training. And she was an air traffic controller. From age 17, she started working at the National Airports Corporation. By the time she was 20, she was actually an air traffic controller. They assessed her and she did very well. She could not be given a license until 21. That's a law of Zambia. For you to be given a license, you have to be 21. So she cried that she couldn't get a license that time. So she said, "No, wait for your right age, 21." So apart from being an air traffic controller, she did a lot of other things. She was an entrepreneur together with her older sister, third born in the family, Chimika Kalangu, and they established a bridal enterprise together. But she was also studying. She was studying in transport and logistics in addition to what she was doing at the airport. Before she passed on, she had actually graduated with a distinction at the UNISA. And apart from that, she was enrolled in a program which was funded by USAID with the Ministry of Gender, helping young women entrepreneurs, helping them and giving them mentors to help them achieve. And she did all that. So she was like multitasking. She was also a mother, a wife. So all those things done within that short time, she did quite a lot and doing them very well. So I was amazed at all those achievements at a young age. So it's just a message to young people that when you are given an opportunity, grab it and do it well. So for Malaika, she also done that path which her mother took, so that she can also achieve as much as her mother did.
You sort of remind me of the notion that it is not so much the length of life, it's the quality with which that life is lived. When you talk about the 30-year lifespan of Bisowa, and may her soul rest in peace, some of the things you have recounted, those of us that are in our 50s and 60s and 70s can only listen to that with admiration. It seems Bisowa pushed at life with all her strength, and hence the stories that are contained in this book. Thank you very much for narrating all these for all of us to continue learning from.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sakala, what is the most valued for you piece of advice you have ever been given? Obviously, this is an unfair question because we get many pieces of advice and we value them. But if you were to pick one, what would that be?
To believe in oneself. I believe if you believe in oneself, you can achieve a lot in life. I'll give an example. There are certain things that you think perhaps I cannot do, and but if you believe yourself, you have that self-esteem. You accept yourself. You can easily achieve and do better in life, like where people think you cannot do it. I'll give an example of my previous workplace. I work for a big organization, American-based organization, and that organization is health-oriented. When they advertised for a job, they were looking for a doctor to head that organization because it was first time to be established in the country. So I'm a nurse by profession. I did not look at the qualification of being a doctor. I just applied as a nurse. So I was amazed that I was called for interview among the other people that were shortlisted. I understand this, there were so many hundreds of applicants for that job as country director. So I went for interview and I was told, you've gone through this first interview, there's another second interview. I traveled all the way from Lusaka to Nairobi for a second interview. People came from the US to interview me. And then when I came back to Zambia, I was told I was given a job. I said, oh, because when I was being interviewed in the Nairobi, one interviewer asked me, you are just a nurse. So how are you going to work with a doctor? Because in the hospital setup, nurses are seen as subordinates to doctors. So how are you going to? I said, I know what I can do, what I can deliver, and I'm sure I'm going to work. And I was given the job. So I was working with these doctors who were my subordinates. So it changed. So because of what I believe in myself, that I can do it, and actually I did it. Yeah.
Knowing and having experienced how much care you give to everything you do, knowing how committed you are to every cause that you elect to involve yourself, I am not surprised that you were in the end given the country director role in that organization. Mrs. Sakala, thank you for your continued work, not just within the Anglican Communion, but also beyond, to support women and even men who are dealing with loss and how to rise again and take that next step one needs. Thank you very much for finding the time to appear on ZAMBITION.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I really appreciate you inviting me to ZAMBITION. Thank you very much.
And pass our regards to Malaika.
I will. Thank you.
Having listened to the dialogue and followed my conversation with our guest, I now invite you to look at the drawing that emerged out of that dialogue. Take time to see the contours, the colors, the images that are reflected on the painting, on the drawing. And pay attention to what the drawing evokes in you. What are the feelings? What are the thoughts that are ignited by you looking at the painting? What thoughts does the painting generate in you with regard to your own leadership? What thoughts, feelings, and images does this painting evoke in you with regard to the future of our country? What else does this painting make you think and feel? Kindly share your reflections on this channel so that we can continue the dialogue on the future of the country we all love, on the future of our nation. Thank you.